Good morning, Mr. Lassner.
Good morning.
I'm Dennis. Welcome to the set of Ka Hui Ho'olauna. We're very happy to have you here today.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
We want to kind of get to know the person behind the name or the title, so to speak. So if we could start, just tell us where you were born and what your childhood was like.
Okay. I was born in Stamford, Connecticut, which is just north of New York City. My parents were both born and raised New Yorkers. And we moved around a fair amount when I was a kid. So I went to probably 7 different public schools in 3 different states before going to public university. So I lived in Stamford, then Brockton, Massachusetts, Rochester, New York, and then a suburb of Chicago called Park Forest, and then on to the University of Illinois, my public university.
Okay. And growing up in the Northeast, how much would you say that shaped the person you are today?
I don't think it was so much the locations. I think the moving around a lot helped make me adaptable. I had to learn how to meet new people and make new friends and adapt to different schools. Each year, for one reason or another, I seemed to be in a different school. So that probably shaped a lot of my flexibility more than any particular regional impacts from the Midwest or the Northeast.
Okay. And I read you did an interview with Kaleo recently.
I did.
And based on my research, you spent a lot of time around computers and the information technology industry.
Yeah.
What would you say got you interested in computers, or what hooked you, and how did you find your passion for it?
Well, my first experience was really in high school, and this was, way before the kinds of things we enjoy today. But I took a computer science class in my high school, and if you can believe it, we had about 6 or 7 high schools around my area that shared one computer, and you could program it using these paper tapes, which were even earlier than the punch cards you see sometimes. And I liked the logic of it. The computers, they generally behave logically. You give them instructions and they do what you told them. And if they don't do what you expected, it's probably because you gave them the wrong instructions. And but I really developed a passion after I got to college. And I had a fellow student in my calculus class who brought me over to a computer lab on the University of Illinois campus. And this was a computer system that had been developed at Illinois for teaching and learning, and it was called Plato. And it had very graphical displays. It was highly networked. It had touch-sensitive screens, and it was used for teaching almost anything from preschool through college-level classes. And it really captured my imagination, and that's what made me start taking computer science classes in college, and that set me on this path, I think.
Okay. And so would you consider yourself like a tech geek now? Are you like into technology and collect all sorts of different gadgets and stuff?
I'm not that much of a gadget guy anymore. I think I'm still pretty much of a geek at heart, and there are parts of it that I pay a lot of attention to. My mom was a kindergarten teacher, and so she got a Macintosh in the mid-'80s, and she was doing things with her kids. She would produce, I remember I was visiting around Valentine's Day, and she produced these graphical Valentines for every one of her kindergarten kids. And you think about this in the mid-'80s, and it was pretty amazing. And when I got back here, I was already working at UH, and I told my boss at the time, I said, we got to check out these Macintosh things. They're really changing the way people think about computers. And so I've been a Mac guy ever since. I'm a Mac guy, iPad, iPhone, and I still take care of all my own gadgets pretty much. And I ask for help sometimes, but mostly I'm managing it. But I'm not a deep techie anymore, I would say, other than on some moving big projects forward.
Did you get the new iPhone 6?
I did not.
Oh, okay.
I'm still on a 5S.
Okay. That's cool. I'm an Apple nerd myself. Sorry. Okay. So looking back, you said you worked with a Plato computer system,
right,
and described it for us. But so when you started your graduate coursework at the University of Illinois, correct?
Right.
You were recruited by UH to do research on the Plato system here?
No. So I saw former President Matsuda was the president when I got here through most of the 70s. And he, as president of UH, he was a local guy, veteran, went to MIT, and eventually became president of UH. And when computers first started getting used more widely, he thought UH should explore what it would mean to use computers for teaching. And so he put together a project of people here in the mid-70s to go out and look at the projects around the country that were doing the best work, thinking, let's see if we should get something started here at UH. And one of the projects they visited was the Plato Lab at the University of Illinois, and it had become my student job. So I worked as a programmer in the Plato Lab almost the whole time I was in school, from my sophomore year, even through graduate school there. And so when the University of Hawaii group came back and they talked about what they had seen, and they decided UH should really start a Plato pilot project here. They were looking for someone to help them get started who knew something about it. And there's really nobody cheaper than a graduate student. So they asked the University of Illinois to recommend somebody. And so my bosses at the Plato Lab at Illinois asked if I'd be willing to go to Hawaii on a one-year half-time contract to help UH get started. And it didn't take very long for me to decide. If you've ever been in Illinois in the winter, it was a pretty appealing choice.
It was the worst. I went to boot camp there.
Oh,
horrible.
okay.
Great Lakes.
Where did you go? Oh,
Great
Lakes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So how many years ago would you say roughly that was?
That was 1977.
Okay. So with all those years past, and you thinking back, hey, that was just a one-year contract and it turned into a whole career path.
Yeah.
Can you kind of reflect on that for us? Or?
You know, there are people who plan their life in every step, and I'm apparently not one of them. So life has treated me very well. You know, that was a great opportunity, and I really did expect to go back after 1 year, and I probably would have finished graduate school at the University of Illinois and become a college professor in some Midwest town. I liked hanging around universities, and instead I came here and really took to Hawaii, and UH apparently took to me. They kept me around for quite a while, and you know, for people who plan every step along the way, I think that's great too. But then I think it's important that you not miss the opportunities that may come along also that you weren't really expecting.
Okay, so kind of segues. So for UH students like myself and my peers here, what advice do you have for them? Like, is that something you would advise to us, is not to plan everything, set everything in concrete?
I think it's great to have plans, but I think you should also be flexible about not locking yourself in. Okay. So I had a plan at that time, which was I was going to finish grad school, and you know, actually I thought I was going to become an economics professor at one point. Then I got seduced by computers. I thought I would become a computer science professor of some kind. Then I ended up here, and I sort of I let my life and job take me along. I had a great opportunity professionally to really grow at UH as a consultant, and then really as an entry-level staff member. And I had great bosses who let me explore new opportunities. From my first year here, one of the great things about the job I had working with computers and teaching and learning is that I got to work with every campus of the UH system. So in my first year, I went to Kauai Community College, Hawaii Community College, UH Hilo, Maui, Leeward, Kapiolani, Windward, Honolulu. So I saw every part of the system. I was always based at UH Manoa, but I always worked for the system. And as I was doing it, I got to work with really some of the most creative and innovative faculty and staff on all of the campuses and at the UH system. So it gave me an opportunity to really explore how to make UH better, and people let me push along. I mean, I didn't always get the money that you want, and that's how life works, but you know, as long as you're growing and learning, you're probably on a good path.
So with that broad perspective you have of the UH system, seeing the individual campuses, so from what you've seen, what kind of changes or impact do you want to leave as president of the UH system? What are some things you have a checklist or want to accomplish?
Yeah, I mean, so it's funny, at the beginning you talked about becoming the permanent president.
Right.
And that's a little bit of an oxymoron, that, you know, these jobs are, you know, subject to so many external forces and everything. But what I would say is, I want everybody who lives in Hawaii should have a chance at higher education. I really believe that higher education is the key to a better life for everyone, whether you're fresh out of high school or you're coming out of the military or you're somebody who's just left a job and wants to take on something else. Higher education is the key to that better future, and public higher education, and UH is the only public higher education provider in this state. That's the key to making it affordable and accessible for everybody on every island, regardless of where you're starting, to be able to get a path forward. I would love to see UH as the anchor of a really rejuvenated Hawaii economy that has a strong sector around research and innovation. I think we've depended for too long on the visitor industry and on military spending, and those are both great industries, but we need more that create different kinds of jobs and that are economically perhaps less subject to some of the same influences as tourism and military spending. I'd love to see us with a more diversified resource base. Right now we rely primarily on tuition and funding from the legislature, and we're always looking for ways to maximize that revenue and use it effectively. But I'd like to see us develop other sources, including philanthropy, generating revenue from use of our land, and generating revenue from some of the commercial applications and the creative ideas of our, not just our faculty, but also our students. So those are some of the ways I think that what I'd like to leave behind. I would like to see, when people think about, you know, UH is really unique because we're a statewide system that includes all public higher education from community colleges through UH Manoa, which is a world-class research university. I think we can and should be the best system of public higher education in this country, and we can do it.
I hope so. I need some stock in my degree. So you've been around computers and information technology for most of your career, and it seems that you've embraced this role as president of the UH system very well. Could you describe the transition? Were there any hardships for you, and during your time as president, what kind of challenges have you really faced that just...
I mean, I should say that I stopped getting to enjoy being a geek and the technical work quite a bit earlier in my career. So by the time I was a chief information officer and a vice president, I didn't really get to spend, even though I was the vice president for information technology, I didn't spend that much time actually hands-on with technology by then. So I've been an administrator for quite a while, and I've had to learn how to get things done in my portfolio, which was information technology. So what the leap was really being responsible for everything across the entire UH system, not just the technology portfolio. What I think really prepared me well for it was the general administrative experience as a vice president and working across the system, engaging, you know, with most of the stakeholders in the community, the legislature, government, a lot of activity with federal agencies and other universities, all of which helps me in this job. But I think for me, one of the keys was that as a technologist, and while I am, you know, still something of a closet geek, I would say, what really drove me was not technology for technology's sake, but how can the University of Hawaii use information technology to be better at everything we do? So going back to my days with Plato, how do we use technology to do a better job of teaching and learning? So distance education, interactive learning, simulations, online learning, all of those possibilities. Across research, so the whole area of big data, managing large data sets that flow down. You know, the Pan-STARRS telescope that you probably heard about on Maui that helps us look for killer asteroids and other near-Earth objects. That thing right now is generating several terabytes of data every night that have to be transported down the mountain, stored, analyzed, processed. And you think about that across all the disciplines of oceanography, health sciences, biotechnology, even agriculture, remote sensing. Those are all areas where information technology is really critical to us being a successful research university and research institution. Administration and moving paperless, online registration, systems like STAR that help move students through. Those are all the ways in which we use information systems to make the UH system and all that we do, teaching, learning, research, administration, better and more efficient.
So you got your doctorate here at UH Manoa.
I did.
What do you have any plans to engage other alumni to the university after they graduate?
Absolutely. So I'm very proud of my UH degree. I have 2 degrees from the University of Illinois and 1 from the University of Hawaii. I worked hardest and longest on my UH degree, my PhD. And I'm really excited about the opportunity to engage alumni. I think UH is a fabulous institution. And I think one of the ways that we will help the public, the legislature, the government, and others understand that is by engaging our alumni and using our alumni as a source of pride. I hate when somebody says, "Where'd you go to school?" and they say, "Just UH."
And I hate that too.
Yeah, I mean, this is a great university, and everyone who graduates from any of our institutions should be incredibly proud. And I think that's part of what we see when the community engages with athletics. And I think it's throughout town. Most of the legislators went to UH. Most of the people who work in town went to UH. But I think also more broadly, it's also a source of financial support and engaging our alumni who are already very generous. But I think also doing more outside of Hawaii is a way for us both to recruit more students to help us financially and also to help spread the word and frankly attract more donations as well from our very successful alumni who are all over the country and in Hawaii.
Maybe if our football team played better too, huh?
Winning football games is good for everybody, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Lassner, thank you very much.
Thank you. Enjoyed talking with you.
Yeah.
Take care, Dennis.
Yep.